John, roll call, please.
Sure. Commissioner Caldwell is not here. Commissioner Walde,
Yes.
Commissioner Giorgiani is not here. Commissioner Cepeda is not here. Commissioner Dunlap.
Here.
Commissioner Wright.
Here.
And Chair.
Here.
Reading of the public meeting, reading of the public notice.
Yes.
The meeting of the Board of Commissioners will take place electronically in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act due to the ongoing state of emergency occasioned by COVID-19. Notice of the meeting was given by 1, public advertisement with sufficient notice herein to the Home News Tribune, New Jersey. 2, filing advance written notice of the meeting with the city clerk's office, and 3, posting the notice of the meeting on the public website of the Housing Authority. During the meeting, participants, including members of the public, may be muted by the host. However, there will be an opportunity for them to participate and speak during the public portion of the meeting, where participants will be unmuted at their request. Pledge of allegiance, Chair.
Yes. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So consideration for the meeting minutes from last month.
You need a motion and a second.
Yes, I do.
Motion.
Second,
Second.
Yurgo,
here
ready
we
for
go.
the vote, Chair?
Yes, I am.
Commissioner Walde,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
and Chair.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes
Okay.
4-0.
All right. Our presentation.
Okay, Chair, we have, you need to just read the resolution, take an action to open and then we can do the presentation.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, should I read the resolution?
Yes, read the resolution. Sorry.
Resolution number-
backwards there.
Yeah, no worries. Resolution number 11 is a resolution acting as a redevelopment agency, a resolution approving RTF NB Urban Renewal LLC as redeveloper for property known as Block 710, lots 7.02, 7.03, and 7.04, and Block 707.01, lot 35.13 on the New Brunswick tax map for the construction of a residential and commercial project located in the Sears redevelopment plan area. You just need a motion and a second to open, Chair.
Can I get a motion? Can I get a motion?
Yurgo, was that
Motion.
Yurgo Walde? Okay. And a second?
Okay,
Okay. We have John Hoffman, special counsel here.
okay.
John.
It would be easier if you have your application, if you looked at a site plan, there's a conceptual site plan at the end, right towards right after all the verbiage on the application. As John indicated, this is a proposed redevelopment project in the former Sears site off Route 1, consisting of approximately 36 acres in the what's called the new Sears redevelopment area. The redeveloper is RTF NB Urban Renewal LLC, which is a joint venture between Russo Development Company and an affiliate of Transformco Holdings, which is an affiliate of Sears entity which owns the property. The redeveloper proposes to construct a mixed-use development, and if you have the map, it's with 630 retail apartments in 2 sections, and that would be Section A and Section B. Approximately 18,000 square foot of indoor amenities, a fitness center, a lounge, a culinary kitchen, approximately 20,319 square foot of retail with outdoor amenities, including a pool, a dog run, lounging areas, and there's a large buffer area between the project and the houses. There is also one single retail building, that is Area C, of approximately 23,000 square feet. That may be anticipated to be a grocery store, and that would have about 185 parking spaces on that particular site. There also is 190 townhouses, and that's in the rear end of the site. And towards the front of the site, it's Area G, is a retail pad, of approximately 3,500 square feet with a potential drive-through. In the apartment areas, there are, in apartment area A, there's between individual and shared parking and some parking for the retail, there's 496 spaces. In area B, there's 373 spaces and another 60 for the retail, or a total of 389. For the townhouses, there's 190 spaces on the driveway, 190 in the garage, and 112 surface spaces, or 492 spaces. Russo Development has constructed many mixed-use developments in Union, Harrison, Kearney, Garwood, Hackensack, Woodbridge, multifamily in Rockaway, Orange and Newark, and industrial in East Hanover. You're familiar with the Hess site in Woodbridge. They're constructing a major development there. The anticipated cost is $207 million, with demolition to begin in mid-2022, earthwork and infrastructure in early 2023, vertical construction in late 2023, with completion in 2027. The plan shows a substantial buffer between the buildings and the existing houses in the area, which there are existing trees there, and there will be other trees and things put on the site. The resolution is contingent on three things: a redevelopment agreement within 90 days, an amendment to the redevelopment plan. There's need for amendment because the townhouse numbers have increased by 10, and there's a permitting to drive through and a different phasing plan, and also a financial term sheet or a financial commitment dealing with the construction of the project. We have with us tonight Catherine Coffey, the attorney for the developer, and Ed Russo, a developer representative, to present the project to you and to answer any of your questions.
Excuse me, John, could you please bring that screen back up in case, so then that way it's visual, any questions that may come across? Leave that screen, you're on mute, John.
That's what I was doing, because can everyone see my screen now?
I see you now, but the screen not me.
No, you took your screen off.
How about now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And I'll go through as they do their presentation.
That's the old site.
That's the old site. We're going to the new one.
John, if you go, there's the new site. You just had it there, John.
Right here. You want to start on this one and then just tell me as I go through? That good?
That's fine.
All
As
right.
I told you, A and B are the apartments. The townhouses are in the rear. The large retail, which may be a grocery store, is C, and the drive-through retail facility is G. H and F are not part of the redevelopment project. There are two existing restaurants that I'm sure everyone's familiar with.
All right. So I'll leave this up. And John, if you want to hand it off to either Ed or Kate, that's fine.
Catherine, you want to, you or Ed want to start?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Hoffman and Mr. Clark. We appreciate you all working with us to get to this point and giving us some time this evening. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kate Coffey from Dave Pitney, and I represent the proposed redeveloper, RTF NB Urban Renewal LLC. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. My husband complains I'm too loud, but I just want to make sure. Okay. So as Mr. Hoffman mentioned, we do have Edward Russo, who is the CEO of Russo Development, which is the sort of parent company of the urban renewal entity that would be the redeveloper here this evening. Mr. Hoffman did a really superlative job describing the proposed application, which is meant to conform with the redevelopment plan that the city's been putting together. As Mr. Hoffman mentioned, there is an amendment to the redevelopment plan that's currently being considered by the planning board and the city council. And our understanding is that it will be considered for adoption at the beginning of May. The plan that you see on the screen is meant to conform with that amendment. So once the amendment's adopted, this will be in conformity with that plan. Mr. Hoffman also did a wonderful job previewing some of Russo's other redevelopment experience and other large-scale redevelopment projects that it has accomplished or that it's in the process of building now in New Jersey. But we're happy to talk more in detail about that, as well as about Russo's experience and credentials and what's envisioned for the site here. So that being said, I'll ask Ed Russo if he can please come off of mute and introduce himself to the board, please.
And thank you, John and the entire Housing Authority for making time for us to make a brief presentation tonight. We're very excited to be before you. John, with your permission, if I could share my screen, I can pull up a slightly larger version of the plan. It might be a little more clear as I just briefly run through it.
I would love to do that. Hold on, Ed, 1 second. Let me make you the host. Here you go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So, is everybody able to see the screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so this is an overall view of our proposed site plan. I know, the Housing Authority is generally very familiar with the existing condition of the property, so I skipped over some of the existing condition plans. But this plan shows the main components of the project. There's really 4 different phases or aspects of the development. The first and really the core of the project are these 2 mixed-use buildings that are largely within the footprint of the existing Sears department store. Both buildings are 5 stories in height with basement level parking. They consist of ground level retail space along the Route 1 frontage of the site and various amenity uses in the area between the buildings, both indoor and outdoor, and 4 levels of residential apartments above. The building that's labeled as A is intended to be the first phase of the project, and then building B would follow shortly after completion of construction of A and stabilization. The second phase is in the rear of the site, as Mr. Hoffman referred to. This is proposed for a townhome community with lower heights, lower density. As we were going through the planning process with the city planning office, they were very helpful in guiding us towards a plan that they felt would be suitable for the site, but also very sensitive to the adjacent single-family homes to the north. And one of the things that they were really insistent about was limiting the development to the existing impervious scope of the project, meaning the buffer area, the wooded area that currently borders the site perimeter along the Dewey Avenue residential neighborhood. It was important that remain and that we stay generally within the existing either parking or building footprints, which this plan reflects. It also reflects the lower height townhomes, which are 3 stories in height, on the portion of the property that's closest to the single family residential community. The townhomes are served by a green area that would be improved with a playground and other passive recreation uses. And the townhome residents would also have access to this outdoor pool and recreation area that's intended to service and be available for the for rent residents and also the homeowners in the townhomes. The third phase of the project is this small retail pad that we're proposing along Route 1. This is about 3,500 square feet with a proposed drive-through. This is generally the size of a typical Panera Bread or another fast casual type food or beverage use. It's about half the size of the adjacent On the Border and Houlihan's restaurant. And then the final phase of the project is a 20,000 square foot proposed grocer, which could actually be built earlier in the project, depending on when we're able to identify a tenant. There's currently a number of tenants that are looking for grocers of this size in Middlesex County. Some of the more common ones are Lidl and Aldi, Amazon Fresh Market. There's a number of different grocers that we think could be suitable candidates for the site, although we don't currently have a tenant in hand. Beyond our site plan, and I'll go through this very quickly, I just wanted to take you through our parking allocation. We know that having adequate parking on site is absolutely critical here, especially given the proximity to Rutgers and you know, the student parking demand that many of the adjacent properties have. We wanted to make sure that we weren't creating a off-site parking need and that we had more than adequate parking on site. And to accomplish that, we've created essentially this color-coded parking allocation plan, which shows how parking would be provided as the project is phased, shows dedicated and both shared parking between residential and retail uses. And you know, we're happy to report that we comfortably meet the requirements in the redevelopment plan. And we've submitted our site plan application to the planning board, and we hope to appear before the planning board in technical review during May and then before the full board in June. And we'd be happy to make available to the Housing Authority our full site plan application if it's interested in the more detailed project design. Very briefly, I wanted to quickly highlight some of the amenities that are being proposed as part of the project. We're very cognizant that there's a significant amount of new residential housing that's being built throughout the state, and Middlesex County is certainly no exception. Fortunately, the demand for new housing is strong, especially if you're building quality projects, neatly finished, that are well maintained and fully amenitized. And because of the location of the site and the scale of the project, we feel very confident that we're able to offer a project that will have enough amenities to be very competitive in the community. And just to talk through what some of those amenities would be, we would anticipate having about 20,000 square feet of indoor amenities with lounge areas, business centers, a large fitness area, both on the lower level and second level of this center of the barbell, so to speak, of our two mixed-use buildings. We also typically have breakout spaces for kids' play areas, culinary kitchens, fitness on demand, yoga studios, really all of the things that we see residents value in today. In terms of our apartment mix, this plan gives a good illustration of the variety of different housing sizes that we have throughout the buildings. We did design the plan to offer a variety of unit styles, units as small as 500 to 600 square foot studios, up to modestly sized 3 bedrooms with 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, with and without den configuration. So in this location, given the proximity to the downtown, the proximity to Rutgers, our experience with other Middlesex County communities, we think there'll be a diverse resident base here. We don't think this will be all empty nesters or all young couples. We think that there'll be a pretty diverse demand at resident base here. We tried to design our unit mix to be accommodating with the market. So I wanted to show a couple quick renderings of other projects that we've either built or we have under construction that are similar in style to what we're proposing here. Even though we've done a full-blown civil engineering design for the project as part of our site plan application, we're still a few weeks away from finalizing the architectural design. So I don't have something that's finalized for the specific site, but a number of very close examples stylistically to what we're proposing. This building is a project that we have under construction in downtown Hackensack. It's part of a similar size project. It's the former Bergen Record site on River Street. It's coincidentally, it's about 700 units. It's got about 50,000 square feet of retail. And you can see from the style of the architecture that, we really try to design more than just the modest, vinyl siding, hardy, plain vanilla brick sort of facades. We use a lot of very large glazing and window systems, a lot of facade lighting, heavily landscaped amenity areas to really try to differentiate, how our projects look and feel. This is the same building, but viewed from the rear. Has an elevated courtyard with a pool similar to the New Brunswick site. And fortunately, this site's located along the Hackensack River, and we have this opportunity to create an amazing water feature and a really nice riverfront walkway, which this reflects. This is actually the completed building on that project, phase 1, which is similar in style. This is actually a photograph of a building that was completed a couple years ago, directly across from Kane University on Morris Avenue in Union. This project had a similar mix of uses, retail, residential. Because it was proximate to the university, we also had some student housing, and there was a business school was built on the site. But this is also architecturally, I think, a good example of what we're proposing for the Sears site. Modern architecture, really nice internally lit lobby and amenity spaces, plenty of exterior lighting that you can really appreciate at dusk. And, we think that the renter base for this project would be, similar to what I described for New Brunswick. I'm just going to page through a few more without going through too much description, just so you can see, the level of design and development that, we're generally proposing. This is an interesting rendering. This is actually a project in East Brunswick that's not more than 2 miles from the Sears site. Also in a redevelopment area located on the south side of Route 18. This is a multi-phase project that'll be built with some overlap with New Brunswick, but slightly different programs. So we feel very confident building both of these projects within the same time frame. This is an internal rendering. It shows our retail space. This ground floor retail that you see, this is very similar to the look and feel of with the residential backdrop of what we're proposing at the Sears site. These are some other downtown project renderings. So there's quite a few more of these, but I'm gonna pause there and see if anybody has any questions for me. I'm happy to delve into more detail on the plan or the history and background of our company, but I know there's a number of things on the agenda tonight, and I want to be sensitive to your time.
Chair, you're on mute.
Thank you. Well, I'll start with the commissioners.
Yeah, I have a
Ready?
question.
Yes, Yergo. Thank you.
All right. Can you give me a breakdown of the townhouse and single family units, please?
Absolutely. A breakdown in terms of the unit distribution, meaning,
No, how many? I mean, it's
Oh,
too
how
many.
many? So there's of the 720 units proposed, 190 of them are for sale townhomes, and 530 are apartment flats. So single story rental units. The townhome units are 3-story buildings, but the units themselves are on 2 floors. And you have a 50% breakdown between 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units within the 190 townhomes.
Okay. Any apartments for rent or?
The apartments for rent are limited to the 2 mixed-use buildings in the center of the site.
Oh, okay.
All of the townhomes would be for sale.
All right. So how many single family units?
No single family. No detached or attached single or duplex units. only conventional and stacked townhomes.
Mr. Russo, could you bring up that image again? That shows as far as when it was a breakup of the one bedroom plus den and everything. If you could bring the image up again.
Absolutely.
I thought I heard you saying single family, so that's why I asked that question.
No, I want to take a look at that as well too. I know I didn't hear that. So the townhomes, you indicated townhomes. It's a mixture of some are rental and then some are also to buy. Is that correct?
All of the townhomes would be for purchase only.
For purchase only, I'm sorry, meant for purchase only. Okay.
Yep, so the rental housing would be limited to just the mixed-use buildings.
Okay.
Yep.
You had a breakup of what it was showing with the size and also one bedroom and then plus den. Could you go to that slide, please?
Sure.
Thank you. This unit here. Okay.
So this is the phase one mixed use building, building A. And this is a typical floor. This is actually the second floor of the building, but it gives a pretty representative example of the mixed unit. So you can see here the different, colors represent different unit types. The larger units that you see shaded, like this corner unit, for example, this is a 3-bedroom. That's a little over 1,600 square feet. You can see a 1-bedroom plus den where you would have a 1-bedroom with an add-on, a bonus room here. Adjacent 2-bedroom is similar, typical inline 2 with a bonus room here. And then we have a number of conventional units, right? This is a pretty conventional 2-bedroom. This is a conventional 1. And I would say that, these units are, even though there's a variety of types within the rental buildings, they're quite a bit smaller than the for sale units. So we don't anticipate that the rental homes will be in direct competition with the for sale homes. They're really intended for different types of customers. The townhome units range in size, up to 22 or 2,300 square feet, whereas the apartments, are on the large side, 15 to 1,600 max.
Okay. What's the percent? You said mixed use. So as far as income levels, what's the percentage for those with the different mixed incomes?
So when I mentioned mixed use, I was really thinking more in terms of retail and residential in the same.
Okay.
I should have described this better, but let me show you the ground floor plan and it'll be a little more evident. So if you look at
I'm sorry, Mr. Russo, I don't mean to interrupt, but what I want to know as far as for the rentals, for what you just showed, what's the percentage as far as for mixed income levels? So if you have individuals with the low income or on a special housing, what's your percentage for that, for the different rental units?
There is not, there are no, income restricted or affordable housing units as part of the project. We are required to pay a payment in lieu of on-site construction per the city's ordinance, but there's no workforce or affordable housing. Although, the market rate housing here is intended to be, priced so that it's attractive for people that live in the community. This is, our niche in the market. We're not building in super luxury locations on the waterfront, high rise. I mean, we tend to build in communities, similar to New Brunswick demographically. I mentioned Hackensack. We talked a little bit about Union. We're building in Newark. We're building in Orange. We're building in Woodbridge. So this price point is really, where our company is most active.
Okay.
Any
other questions? Yorgo?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Are you planning to apply for tax abatement?
Say that one more time, sir.
Excuse me?
I didn't hear your full question. I'm sorry.
I think the question was whether we planned to apply for a tax abatement. And the answer is the applicant does intend to seek a long-term tax exemption.
So how come you can do that without having affordable housing units? I mean, is there any deal with the city to get affordable units if they provide you with tax abatement?
So
There's no requirement. I can answer that.
Sure.
There's no requirement that in order to get a tax abatement, you have on-site affordable housing, and the tax abatements are granted on a need basis. So in order to qualify, you have to demonstrate that there's a financial need. And in the case of this project, because of the cost of development, this is because of the former use and the fact that, there's a Sears that's vacant that needs to be demolished. There's significant infrastructure costs. The city, feeling was that the project would not be economically feasible as it's currently designed, without a pilot and with affordable housing. But it did, require a substantial payment in lieu.
You mean financial need by the developer? Is that what you're talking about?
Financial,
Like for the-
what kind of developer?
You say
The
financial.
question is, when asked what you mean by financial need, are we referring to the financial need of the developer? And what it really refers to is the cost of the project in order to build what's required and envisioned by the city's redevelopment plan. Because of the nature of the site, the costs associated with accomplishing what's in the redevelopment plan require that a payment in lieu of taxes be associated with accomplishing what's in the redevelopment plan. And then as to affordable housing, as Mr. Russo mentioned, the redevelopment plan requires that any redeveloper make a payment in lieu of including affordable housing on site that can then go into the city's affordable housing trust fund.
And
Is it financed by private entities? Or is there any state or federal fund coming to it?
there's no state or federal funds, privately financed.
All right.
Okay. Any other
Okay.
questions,
Well,
Yorgo?
Yeah, my concern is if they are getting tax abatement, we're hoping to get a few affordable units there.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the commissioners? Mr. Dunn, go ahead.
Just a question to Mr. Yogo was stating regarding the neighborhood that is proposing to be built in construction.
I'm sorry, well, we're having some
Mhm.
trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah,
much
that's better, Wallace. Yep.
Yeah, regarding the location, the OCS location, I've lived in there for years, just all my life. When I look at the particular development that's going to be there, catered more so for, I would say, the market rate, and it's not even trying to accommodate individuals to me that lives in that area that's living in some older buildings and may be interested in moving in there, but it seems to be not catered or feasible to them because it's all open market. Whole market. To me, you're not trying to help out individuals there by getting that territory, that land, and it doesn't seem good in my eyesight. I'm looking at the questions that's being asked and the answers that's being given. Yes, it's a good place. It's a good thing to be doing. You're doing there, but I'm looking at individuals, families. For instance, let's say a disability. Nothing was mentioned regarding disability structures there for people who wants to live there, have the money to live there, but you didn't mention anything about disability accommodations. Will that be there as well?
Absolutely. We're required to build in accordance with ADA requirements and standards. And generally in projects like this, we will not only meet but exceed the ADA standards because we want to have the full ability to rent units, not just a handful of units, but all units to potentially or disabled residents. And with respect to your comment on affordable housing, I think the city has been very diligent in how it's approached planning for affordable housing projects, and it's certainly from what we could tell in our during the planning process when we were working with the the city's professionals over the last year, they made it clear to us that, the creation of affordable housing is very important in New Brunswick, but they also recognize that on certain sites, because of the site constraints, whether they're environmental or the cost of infrastructure, demolition costs, or the density of development, it's not always feasible. And in those cases, their feeling is that getting a payment in lieu and being able to use those funds to either rehab or to create affordable housing, in other projects that need to be subsidized is, more beneficial. And I could say, for Russo Development as a company, we've built projects that were 100% affordable to 100% market rate to inclusionary, which had a mix of affordable and market rate. So we're not adverse to building affordable housing. We've done it many times before. But for this particular project, given the requirements of the plan, the requirements of the site and its constraints, it wasn't economically feasible to design the project with affordable housing.
Thank you, Mr. Russo, for the comment and response. Just a question that was mentioned, and I'd like the answer, you can give it to me this time. The base rates of the single and the base rate for a single apartment, townhouse, what are the numbers generally? What's the numbers, the ranges?
The rents for the apartments?
Yeah, the amount range, price range.
So if you look at surrounding communities, which is generally what we'll do when we're trying to estimate, what do we believe the market pricing is here? There's actually a project that's not far from this. It's a little bit north on Route 1. It's on the AMC theater site. It's called the Edge.
It's behind the coffee house over there.
Yeah, it's behind the Starbucks, exactly. Just maybe not even a half a mile north of here on the same side, the southbound side of Route 1. Their rents for studio apartments are, probably in the $1,700 per month range. One bedrooms in the, high teens below 2,000 a month range. Two bedrooms, I would say, in the mid to high 2,000 range, and then, three bedrooms, which are, there's not many built. They usually get a premium. I think our project, we have, a little less than 10% of the apartments are three bedroom, but, those you can generally get, 3,000 or even more per month, depending on the size. So I would say the range is from, $1,500-$1,600 a month up to the low threes, based on some of the newer projects in New Brunswick, and there's a handful in East Brunswick as well that I think are, one's the Kensington, that's another example, that are decent comps for this.
Just ask that question. I'm just, again, thinking about the community that's here and what you're proposing to build there. And I'm looking for individuals that's here, doing decent for themselves and their families, looking to go into a better place, a newer building, new construction, a newer house, apartment. That's my thoughts right there. And I'm looking how they would do that regarding the finances. That's my reason to ask the question. I hear what you're saying. I know what you're proposing. It's a little niche higher than what's been around here, even though you mentioned that behind Starbucks, which is a new building. But right next door with Sears is at those older buildings over there. And I looked at I ride through there, and I'm looking at what's being proposed right next door to them. And if someone from there wanted to go there, I understand the financial need would be, I don't know where it would be actually. It's like a bridge, that's all. Can they commute to that level over there? And it's going to be more difficult, or it's going to be feasible for them to do so? That's my question. So thank you for answering.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, I open now to any questions to the public, from the public. Is that Mr. Cradaville?
Yes, that's me. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I do hear you.
Thank you for opening up to questions, Madam Chair, and thank you and Commissioner Walde and Commissioner Dunlap for the really good questions that you asked. I share concern about zero affordable housing. I just want to make sure I heard it right. None of the rental units will be affordable. None of the for sale units will be deed restricted affordable. And what is the total number of units for this project? It's several hundred, right?
Yeah, 700, just over 700.
I think that a project of this magnitude simply must include a affordable housing component. We heard some examples of other projects thrown around. I for one, not a big fan of the projects that were mentioned, but certainly not a big fan of hearing $1,600 or $1,700 for renting a studio apartment. I mean, these are prices that I don't think I could afford. I don't know if the commissioners could afford them, but certainly, most New Brunswick residents cannot afford those rates, and so I'm very concerned that this is a project that will not provide housing for those who need it most, those who are already here in our city. I also wanted to ask if there's any accommodations for public transportation. I think that building 700 units is going to add a lot of automobiles unless you plan to make public transit easy and viable for the residents. Is there any so much as some bus shelters or any type of amenities for transit?
Yes, that's a great question. We actually do have shuttle service that's proposed from the center of the project to various points of interest within the downtown. That was something that the city was also felt was very important from a planning point of view, and we would expect we have other projects similar in size to this where, depending on resident demand, we could end up with as many as 150 or 200 residents during the afternoon and morning peaks that are commuting via mass transit. So having that shuttle link to the Northeast Border Line and the downtown or other points of interest throughout Rutgers, we recognize is likely to be substantially in demand here. With respect to your comment on affordable housing, I respect what you're saying. I will say to you that there are many examples of projects like this in similar communities that did not have on-site affordable housing and are providing a payment in lieu. The project that we mentioned in Hackensack is a good example. The project that's being built in East Brunswick around the corner is another example. That project is approved for over 1,200 units and there's no on-site affordable housing. And it's not because those communities don't care about affordable housing. They do. They made the planning decision that you could create more affordable housing by collecting money, using the money from your affordable housing trust fund in order to rehab units or to sponsor 100% affordable housing projects, which are eligible for things like, HMFA tax credits and low-income financing that we're not eligible for as a market rate project or even an inclusionary development, and leveraging those dollars in order to create more housing, within the community. So all I can say to you is our plan complies to the redevelopment plan standards. Affordable housing on site is not a plan standard, a payment in lieu is. And, we're committed to making sure that, our project is built and that the revenue that's generated from it, whether it's the affordable housing fees or it's the pilot revenue, can be used by the city to create, hopefully workforce housing in the community.
Thank you for the thorough answer, and I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you for the thorough presentation as well. I do appreciate it. I want to clarify on the payment in lieu you're speaking of. Is this would be an additional payment, or are you talking about the payment in lieu of taxes for the long-term tax exemption that you've applied for?
So that's a good question. I also didn't explain that well. There's a payment in lieu for which is for real estate taxes, which at full completion of the project is projected to generate about $2 million a year in revenue for the city. And then there's an additional payment in lieu of building affordable housing, which is a citywide requirement. Kate can speak to this better than me, but I believe it's 1.5% of equalized assessed value for residential and a slightly higher percentage for the retail components of the project.
Right. So just to build off of what Mr. Russo said, the city has an ordinance and the state actually has a statute that deals with this, and it is 1.5% of the value of the residential units and 2.5% for the non-residential. And that's a payment that, again, the redevelopment plan requires that the developer make to the city, and that is separate and apart from the payment in lieu of real estate taxes. So that the payment in lieu that Mr. Russo was referring to in the context of affordable housing is a separate payment that the redeveloper makes that will go into the city's affordable housing trust fund. And it's earmarked for the city's affordable housing initiatives, whether that be rehabilitation of existing affordable units to improve their condition, or whether it's to create new affordable units elsewhere within the city, either as part of a 100% affordable project or as another initiative. And then the other payment that we're talking about is a payment in lieu of standard real estate taxes. And that would go into the general city fund separate from the affordable housing fund. So there's two payments coming out of the project: one, payment in lieu of taxes, and two, payment in lieu of affordable housing. And again, as Mr. Russo indicated, the payment in lieu of affordable housing is dictated by the redevelopment plan, which the city's planners and council and planning board have all reviewed as being the appropriate planning for this property and this redevelopment initiative. And as Ed also indicated, the city does take affordable housing very seriously, as I'm sure you all appreciate. And part of it is strategic on their part to determine where the most affordable housing can be created, kind of getting the most bang for their buck, so to speak, and where it's most needed. So those are the two different payments that we're talking about. Hopefully that
Okay.
helps.
Thanks.
Okay, thank
Thanks for
you.
elaborating.
All right, thank you.
So that payment in lieu of affordable housing, that's a one-time payment?
Correct.
One
And
time,
do you have an approximate figure of how much it would be?
Okay,
um,
this will be the last question, and then we have to move on. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Russo.
I can try to answer that briefly. It's up to the tax assessor to determine what the equalized assessed value of the project would be. And it's generally done at the time that construction permits are issued for the project, because 50% of the fee is due at the beginning of construction, or when permits are issued, and then their balance of the fee is due when the first certificate of occupancy is issued. So we could research with the tax assessor what the likely assessment would be, so we could calculate the fee. But on a project this size, it's in the millions.
Okay,
Thank you. And Madam Chair, if I could just close with a comment, I do want to give you my thoughts on the project. So I very much appreciate the presentation and the questions that you allowed me to ask, the questions that you asked. At the end of the day, there's already a motion and a second on the floor, but I do want to advise you all that the redevelopment plan is currently being changed. The long-term tax exemption application that was mentioned was on the council agenda recently, but was pulled at the last minute. And so that has not been done yet. As mentioned by the applicant, the TAC and the full planning board have meetings coming up to review this. And so in light of all that, I would encourage you to approach this like you've done other projects, where you end up doing the redevelopment agreement at the same time as you do the designated redeveloper. I think the devil's in the details with projects like this, and it sounds like some of you have some concerns about the affordable housing. Whoever made that motion to adopt this could consider withdrawing that motion and just tabling the matter, so that we could get more answers, perhaps push for more affordable housing, and ultimately let these other processes play out. So I did want to encourage you to for the moment, table this item, and thank you for the time.
okay, thank you, Mr. Cradavell. Okay, all right. There are some other individuals on here. John?
Yeah, there's no hands up, Chair. In fact, Charlie, I don't know how to, can you put your hand, do you have another question, Charlie, or is your hand?
No, it
Okay.
remains.
I'll put it down.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other hands, Chair.
Okay, all right. Okay, so there was a motion and then there was a second. Okay. All right, so we can move on forward, put this to a vote.
You're going to call for the vote, Chair?
Are there any other concerns from the commissioners? Who put the motion?
believe Commissioner Walde made the motion, and I didn't know whether it was Commissioner Dunlap or
And
Commissioner
who did the
Wright.
second?
It was Commissioner Dunlap or Commissioner Wright, I believe. So I'll give it to Commissioner Dunlap. How about that?
Commissioner Dunlap? Okay.
I think it was simultaneous. So
Okay.
Chair, do you have, are you calling for any abstentions at this time?
That's what I'm calling. Yeah, I'm calling for any abstentions.
Yes, so I abstain.
And that's Commissioner Wright, right?
Right.
Commissioner Wright.
So you're gonna have, okay. You ready for the vote?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Walde,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap. You're on mute, Commissioner Dunlap.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can, sir. Sorry.
I abstain.
You're gonna abstain too. Okay. And Chair.
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. All right. I thank you all. I guess we'll be seeing you again at some point. All right, Chair.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, Chair,
Yeah.
what would you like to do at this point?
Let's move on to the
You want to
resol-
open up for one last public session, or you want to go into the regular meetings?
No, regular meeting, please.
Okay. Right into the resolutions?
Yes, right into the resolutions, please.
All right. Resolution number 12 is a resolution ratifying, authorizing, and approving the payment of bills for the month of March 2022.
Can I get a motion?
Motion,
Can I get a
Sorry, that
second?
was Commissioner Wright.
correct.
Yes. And a second?
Second.
Oh,
I second.
Jürgen Wolf,
Okay. Okay,
ready for the vote?
yes.
Oh, is that somebody's hand? No, it's not. I'm sorry.
No, nobody.
Commissioner Walde,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes,
and Chair.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Resolution number 13 is a resolution adopting and approving the revised utility allowance for the Section 8 HCV program for use by the New Brunswick Housing Authority.
Okay, can you get a motion?
motion,
Is there a second?
Second.
That was Commissioner Dunlap?
Yes, second.
Okay.
Okay,
Chair, this is the annual
Go ahead.
utility allowance for use by the Section 8 program. We go out and contract with Nelrod. They do the surveys, and these would be the utility amounts that they're recommending that we support for the program.
okay. All right.
Ready for the vote?
Yes, ready for the vote.
Commissioner Walde,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
yes,
and Commissioner Medina Hernandez.
Yes.
Okay. Resolution number 14 is a resolution adopting, accepting, and approving the annual audit for 6/30/21 for the New Brunswick Housing Authority.
Okay.
Motion.
Who was
Okay.
that?
Commissioner Wright moved.
Thank you.
You need a second, Chair.
Yes, who was the second?
Second.
I thought I heard a second. That's
Oh,
why.
Commissioner Dunlap, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't hear. We had our annual audit again, which was successful. We had no findings. And I'm very pleased with the outcome. They actually audited the larger program this year. So again, this is the adoption process. And once we go through, we would then be able to send it out once the board adopts it tonight.
Okay, all right. With the vote?
Commissioner Walde,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
yes,
and Chair.
Yes.
And
Okay,
then lastly is the resolution number 15 is a resolution adopting and approving the HUD and state budget for FY 6/30/23 for all programs and operations of the New Brunswick Housing Authority.
okay. Can I get a motion?
motion,
A second?
Second.
Thank you.
Chair, this is our annual budget. As you know, HUD just passed the omnibus, which takes us through September. So really, amounts after that are projections. We still are required to do the budget at this time. So this takes a look at and submits those amounts based on the current figures that we have. And it's a pretty conservative budget. And I think it will meet all the needs of the programs through at least September. And then if we need to do a revision pending on what happens with elections, we will do it at the time after the November election.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay. Put to
I have a
vote.
question. I have a
Oh,
question.
yes, sorry, go ahead, Waldy.
John, is there any reduction in the budget or is the same budget as last year?
Well, we use baseline with the percentage increase that HUD has currently in the omnibus budget, which is about that's about a 3% increase. Inflation is going to have effects on that, obviously, but again, the HUD's budget only goes through September 30th. So they haven't released their capital fund numbers yet. We have seen that there were substantial increases, at least in some of the pencil items, but we use last year's numbers because we don't have this year's numbers, which were quite low because they were left over from the previous administration. So I think we're going to be happily pleased when the numbers come in on the increases that we have. But as far as those other items go, you know, it's a pretty straightforward budget.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, put it to vote.
Commissioner Walde,
Yes,
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
and Chair.
Yes.
And that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now for public comments and to 5 minutes, public comments, 5 minutes. Anybody? Mr.
You have-
Cradaville?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, good evening once again, Commissioners. I wanted to ask if that vote on the redevelopment item passed. I noticed only one commissioner voted in the affirmative.
That vote did not pass.
it did not.
Okay. Well, thank you, and I appreciate your time tonight. Hope you're all doing well and look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cradaville.
Chair,
Anyone
oh.
else? I saw somebody, Christopher Minks, Esquire.
that's just a participant. I don't see any
Okay.
hands up. So
I don't see any hands up as well. So, can I get a motion?
move.
go
Second
ahead.
to adjourn? Okay.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Walde moved.
Commissioner Walde moved.
Okay,
And
all right.
do we have a second?
Yes.
Commissioner
Okay.
Dunlap seconds. Okay.
Okay,
Ready for the vote, Chair?
yes,
Commissioner Walde,
Yes,
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
and Chair.
yes.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, everyone. Thank you so much.
everyone have a good evening.
Have a good
Thank
evening,
you.
everybody.